So, there I was. Junior Fleet Master Kale, age 17 cycles, technically a trainee. The youngest Colvine to ever command an Armada. 300 warships dropping out of FTL right on the Terran border. I had my victory speech memorized. If I pulled this off, my career was set for life. The Admiralty would have no choice but to hang my portrait in the Great Hall. We breached normal space with weapons hot, ready to glass their outer defenses. It was empty. Nothing but cosmic dust and a weird vibration in the deck plating. A hum. 4 steady beats, repeating, like music. You'll want to hear how this spectacular career suicide ends. Trust me on that. Right. So I'm looking at the main viewport. There are no defense platforms, no patrol fleets, just empty space. Tactical Officer Vrek, who is twice my age and actively resents me, spits out a preliminary sensor report. He says there are objects out there, thousands of them. I ask what kind of orbital weapons we are facing. Weather monitors, sir, Vrek grunts. I kid you not. I was going to formally reprimand him for insubordination when, well, I noticed the primary tactical display had a dead pixel in the bottom left corner. I stared at that pixel, for longer than was professionally appropriate. Run it again, I ordered. Vrek ran the scan again, which only confirmed that the humans had somehow harvested the crust of a dead neutron star, a material roughly 10 billion times stronger than standard military-grade steel, and used it to build meteorological equipment, which is not a sentence any sane tactician should ever have to process, because weather monitors made of collapsed stars. I laughed. In my defense, I assumed it was a translation matrix error. My laughter stopped when Vrek's dorsal quills fired involuntarily. 6 of them launched straight up, embedding themselves 3 inches deep into the ceiling acoustic panels, the biological equivalent of a door slamming shut. The subsonic command net degraded into pure static screaming. My own shoulder quills were rattling so hard they scraped my armor. The 4-4 rhythm in the deck plating got louder. Thrum, 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 thrum. Sir, Vrek choked out, his quills still completely flared. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. Show me. The central hololith flickered to life. I expected a Terran general, a warlord covered in scars, a surrender demand. Guess what? It was a human child, an unnamed Terran offspring, holographically projected at 10 times normal size right in the middle of my bridge. The child was smiling. It wasn't a threatening smile. It was the innocent, wide-eyed grin of a juvenile who had just been handed a sweet treat. The child had missing primary teeth and was holding some kind of stuff. The primary proximity alarms shattered the silence. All 300 ships in my armada started flashing red. Simultaneously, the dead pixel on the monitor vanished under a wave of incoming threat warnings. The weather monitors were shifting orbit. They were uncloaking, and the child kept smiling. The rhythm vibrating through my boots accelerated. The tempo shifted. It wasn't just music anymore. It was a countdown. They're moving into an envelopment sphere, Vrek reported, his voice high and entirely stripped of its usual contempt for me. Those aren't weather monitors. I gathered that, Vrek. I gripped the command console. The metal was cold. The child's oversized holographic eyes seemed to look directly at me, tracking my movements across the bridge. That innocent smile hanging in the air while thousands of neutron star-armored satellites boxed us in. We hadn't ambushed the Terrans. They had left the door open, and we had walked right in. So there we were, boxed in by meteorological equipment made of dead stars. The 4-4 rhythm in the deck plating wasn't just humming anymore. It was beating. Thud, 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 thud. The tempo climbed, vibrating straight up through my boots into my primary hearts. You'd think a military academy would train you for this. They don't. They teach you how to break blockades, not how to fight a toddler armed with celestial bodies. The child in the hololith tilted its head. It dropped the stuffed toy. I remember noticing the toy was missing a button eye, leaving just a little tuft of frayed thread. I stared at that thread. I focused on it entirely. Because if I looked at the tactical display showing 3,000 neutron star masses locking onto my flagship, my scent glands were going to violently release spear spores all over the command console. And then, the child stopped smiling. The hologram didn't glitch. It just shifted resolution, sharpening until the kid looked entirely too real. The juvenile opened its mouth, and the voice that came out was not a child's. It was synthesized, cold, heavy enough to crack glass. Your window to survive this closed before you entered this system. Right, so that was a problem. Breck's control panel lit up with target locks. Every single one of those weather monitors was humming in perfect synchronization with the deck plating. It wasn't a countdown, it was a weapon charge cycle. The humans were using that 4/4 rhythm to perfectly synchronize a staggered, overlapping firing sequence across 3,000 independent orbital platforms, creating an inescapable web of destructive energy, which is a level of casual, horrifying tactical arrogance that I still cannot fully comprehend. They knew exactly how strong they were. They were showing off. We were dead. Well, we were statistically about to be converted into a fine plasma mist, which is technically worse because there is no body to send back to the Admiralty. "Helm," I said. My voice cracked. "I don't care. Hard about. Emergency FTO. Sir, the gravitational shear from those satellites burned the drives." We ran. We didn't tactically withdraw. We fled like prey. The flagship groaned as the FTL engines tore a hole in space just before the rhythm reached its peak. We dropped out of hyperspace 6 sectors away. Tiad Prime engines were slagged. The bridge was finally silent. No humming. I slumped into the command chair, pulling my quills flat against my skull. That rhythm was still echoing in my head. It was the pulse of a species that builds toys from dead suns and leaves the door open just to see who is stupid enough to walk in. Rek swept shattered acoustic foam off his terminal. He didn't look up. "So," Rek rasped, "how are you explaining this to the Admiralty?" "I'm not," I said. "I'm telling them we encountered severe weather.